Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone, wherever you are joining us from today. Thank you very much for joining this meeting today. And we're really happy to host you with the Climate Heritage Network and the CVI project in sharing COP27 through African heritage eyes and voices. Just to give a little background about this project, and this was an initiative from the Climate Heritage Network and the CVI projects, and with the support of a lot of people and organizations around the world. So we are really grateful for all the support that we received, who enabled 5 African heritage leaders to go to COP27 to share their knowledge and their challenges and to build new connections with people, organizations, communities from all over the world, which supports them in empowering their responses to the climate emergency we are facing today. Special thanks to ICOMOS France, to the Union of Concerned Scientists, to Google Arts, the International National Trust Organization for their support. During COP27, we've participated in different events. For example, the Culture Cup, which was a gathering of people from across borders and boundaries coming together in celebration, catharsis, and commitment to create tangible and long-lasting change and connections. So this was an event where a lot of heritage, culture, and arts practitioners and professionals came together to discuss the climate emergency and how it is affecting their livelihoods, but also their work. We also have been in a trip with culture, heritage, and arts professionals where we sat with Bedouin leaders from the Hamada tribe and met the first women to ever guide the Sinai tribe. We also walked along the Wadi Tlah, which is a beautiful valley in the highland of St. Catherine, which contains one of the oldest mountains orchards. So it was really great to be there and to also be on the ground to understand the impacts of climate change on the landscape, but also on the Bedouin communities. We also have organized an event in the Resilience Hub, which was one of our highlights because this event was really about sharing vulnerability to climate change of specific heritage sites, how managers have been dealing with it, but also how managers work with communities and other stakeholders to define and understand what vulnerability to climate change means. And some of our speakers will describe this a little bit more. During this event, 7 heritage leaders were present in person and online to share their experiences in assessing, understanding, and responding to climate change risks to heritage in Africa. We had someone who drew some comics in relation to what was shared during our meetings, as you can see. Trust natural heritage to come to the rescue of cultural heritage even before funds do. And here's the deal: the West returns our looted artifacts and heritage, and in turn take back cultural enrichment free of charge. So just another way to bring art, heritage, and culture together. We also went to a little trip to St. Catherine's in the middle of the night, walking up to the mountains, which was really great because these are also moments where we share a lot and we talk a lot and we share experiences and challenges. And I think this gave us a new perspective on actually how to collaborate and how to engage with each other and understand each other better. In addition to that, we enjoyed and participated in different other side events where we were invited and did our best with the time we had and the energy we had to connect with as many stakeholders as we could. So I will give the space to Mr. Andrew Potts to share a bit more about the Climate Heritage Network, but also what the Climate Heritage Network did during COP27. Andrew Potts coordinates the Secretariat of the Climate Heritage Network, which is hosted by the Paris based International Council on Monuments and Sites. He been formerly served as the coordinator of the ICOMOS Climate Change and Heritage Working Group. He's a lawyer by training. His law practice originally focused on arranging public and private finance for the adaptive reuse of historic buildings, and then expanded to financing for culture-based sustainable development projects more generally. He has made culture and climate change his focus since 2015. The floor is yours, Andrew.
Well, thank you, Salma. And I want you all to know how really thrilled I am to be here now, and how proud, incredibly proud I am of the team that you're going to hear from. As Salma said, I'm the coordinator of the Climate Heritage Network, the CHN. Member organizations of the CHN believe that culture, from arts to heritage, has the power to help people imagine and realize low carbon, just, climate resilient futures. And one of the ways they work to unlock that potential is by contributing cultural perspectives to international climate change policymaking. And for that, there's no more important venue than the annual UN climate change conferences known as the COPs, where cultural voices have traditionally been lacking. The COPs rotate to a different UN region every year, and in 2022, the COP was hosted by the Africa region. And so we at the CHN knew that not only did we want to amplify cultural voices at Sharm el-Sheikh, but we wanted to lead with African colleagues, with African cultural voices telling a uniquely African story. So that was the genesis of the African Heritage Voices at COP27 initiative, building on the CVI project that you'll hear about in a moment. Ultimately, thanks to the generosity of the Union of Concerned Scientists, ICOMOS, Into, Queen's University Belfast, Google Arts and Culture, and the other donors that we celebrate today, we were able to help support the colleagues you're going to hear from momentarily to travel to the COP and tell their stories and raise their voices. And I am just so thrilled that they were able to do that. But ultimately, was COP27 a success, globally speaking? I suppose the international consensus is that it was mixed, but it had important accomplishments. Undoubtedly, one of those accomplishments was the creation, the approval of a new financing fund for loss and damage. This has been debated for decades, and now at Sharm el-Sheikh, the approval was given to set up this fund that will provide money to countries, to peoples in the global south who have done the least to contribute to anthropogenic climate change, but are experiencing its destructive impacts. A second key outcome of COP27 has to do with the global goal on adaptation. You probably know about the Paris Agreement mitigation goal, holding global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius. But there was always supposed to be a companion goal on adaptation, which was never launched until Sharm el-Sheikh, where a framework for creating that global goal was approved. And the thing that is really exciting about both of those landmark decisions taken at COP27 was that each of them includes explicit references to culture and heritage. So really breakthrough recognition of the role of culture and heritage as a pillar of international climate change policy. And it is, I think, so fitting that those decisions were taken in Africa, in the cradle of humanity at the African COP, COP27, and so fitting that it was done in the presence of the heritage voices, the delegates that you're going to hear from today. It's really amazing outcomes. I want to congratulate Dr. Salma Sabor, who opened the meeting, who led the project, and really, really applaud the delegates who made this possible and the funders who supported them. Thank you all. I'm so proud of you. Congratulations.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you for your kind words and for being of a great support and great leader in this project as well. I'm going to give the floor to Dr. Will McGarry. Will is an archaeologist and heritage management specialist working at the intersection between climate change and culture. He teaches at Queen's University in Belfast in Northern Ireland, where he lives with his family. He is currently focal point for climate change at the International Council on Monuments and Sites and head of its climate action working group. He has been involved in a range of projects exploring themes including climate communication, vulnerability assessment, and integrating culture into climate policy. He remains an active field archaeologist with projects in Shetland Island exploring culture and identity on the margins of the European Neolithics. And he's gonna share with us a little bit the experience of the Climate Vulnerability Index Africa from the training to COP27. The floor is yours, Will. Thank you.
Salma, thank you very much. And I'm not going to speak for a long time today. This is not about my voice, but I just want to firstly thank both Andrew, yourself, and the CHN for this amazing series of initiatives we've had since the CVI-Africa project. Salma, especially your dedication and your enthusiasm has been infectious and has been brought and raised what we've been trying to do to a whole new level. So thank you very much, and thank you to everybody involved in this. So my name is Will McGarry. As Salma says, I'm based on the island of Ireland, and I was the principal investigator on the CVI-Africa project, which was funded by the United Kingdom Department for Culture, Media, Sport and Digital, and the Arts and Humanities Research Council. The CVI-Africa project really was a collaborative project. We had over 15 partners across 5 different continents: Europe, Africa, North America, Australia, and Asia. And I think the most wonderful thing about the CVI-Africa project and this broad range of partners was that it showed how a global problem like climate change requires a global response, that coming together and bringing people together from all over the world is the way we respond and the way we make meaningful climate action. And I'd like to thank and acknowledge so many of these partners, including some I see today here in the meeting. And today we couldn't have done it all without you. The CVI-Africa project was about exploring the applicability of the Climate Vulnerability Index tool, a tool developed by Scott Heron and John Day in Australia to assess the vulnerability of World Heritage sites. We ran practical workshops at 2 sites in Tanzania and Nigeria, but perhaps more importantly, we also designed and delivered a training course to 8 African heritage professionals from 6 countries across the continent. And I say it perhaps more importantly because the project finished up last year, and at this stage of the project, primary investigators like myself are often tasked with providing measures of success. And the more I think about the CVI-Africa project, the more I think that the traditional measures of success in terms of journal articles and research don't apply to a project like this. Because I think that really what makes this project a success are the amazing people, the amazing community, the amazing network of people who came together in this project. And everyone here is a testimony to that today. That in order to make a difference to climate change, we need to come together and work together. And the CVI-Africa project was a great example of that. So I'm incredibly proud not just of what we achieved research-wise on this project, but more importantly, what we achieved by working together and what we were able to demonstrate was achievable by working together. And I really, really look forward to hearing from everybody today about their experiences of what working together to make meaningful climate action achieved. Salma, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Will. The next speaker is not with us today, but she sent us a video that I will share with you right now. It's Dr. Ishan Lawson Odiawa. She's the Vice President of Nigerian National Committee of ICOMOS and has made immense contribution to the activities of the National Committee. She is also an expert, member and former board member of ECAH.
I think it was a great opportunity to have the African heritage managers there. And thank you so much, Salma, for the great push, for the great effort in making that possible. The fact that we're able to do some crowdsourcing, that people were also able to provide and contribute to that, made it possible for our colleagues to participate in this. I listened to some of the sessions at the Resilience Hub in which they participated, and it struck me that it must have been a rich experience for them, not just for their own presentation of what they had done, but to hear, to share with other people who were there, and also to hear from them experiences which, when I heard some things, I said, but that is based on culture. I would tell myself, I said, that's based on culture, that's based on culture. So I think it was an enriching experience. That's number one. Number two, I think it also provided an opportunity for others to hear from our African heritage colleagues what is going on the continent vis-a-vis managing the climate emergency, and also the contributions that culture can make to climate action. I think those giving voice and giving them a place at the table was important to also bring this to the table. And as we go on to the next COP, I envisage that the place at the table will be much bigger than it was in Sharm el-Sheikh. We look forward to more engagement with a bigger climate community. And we look forward also to being able to speak and share mutually, not to use, because one of the things that we tend to do in our various specializations is that we use a lot of jargons. And so we lose each other in jargons and we're not able to communicate effectively. And so being able to break down what is necessary to share across the board, whether you're a heritage specialist speaking with a climate specialist, but to understand that your concerns are the same and that there's something to be learned one from the other. I think that is part of the next step that we'll need to get to. And that's one of the things also that the CHN is also working on through its engagement with the UNFCCC and other actors in the sector.
This was from Dr. Ishanlosen Ogiawa, and next with us is Mr. Adam Markham. Adam Markham is Acting Director of the Climate and Energy Program at the Union of Concerned Scientists in Cambridge, Massachusetts. He has a background in international climate policy and biodiversity conservation. Adam, the floor is yours. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you so much, Salma, and thank you for organizing this. And I also want to acknowledge, I saw Salma give a talk about her research on community resilience in Mauritania the other day, which was really wonderful. So I think that's been recorded by Tufts University. You should go see it if you can. So I'm going to speak very briefly, as this event is centered on African voices, not voices like mine. We at UCS have been working on the nexus between climate and heritage for about 10 years now. And of particular concern to us is helping to bring the latest climate science to the heritage field in general. And I want to acknowledge on the call, I think at least two of our climate scientists, Astrid Caldas and Brenda Equiville, are both on this call with me today. We're also working to help empower local and frontline communities to effectively understand and respond to climate threats and supporting climate justice. And in this context, it was really important for us to be able to support African colleagues, many of whom are here, in undertaking climate assessments and attending COP27. And I'm really excited to hear more about that soon. So we are at UCS helping to build and support coalitions of heritage professionals and organizations advocating for climate action and building resilience strategies to protect both tangible and intangible cultural heritage. We've also, for a long time, been part of the global effort to support global financing for climate loss and damage. And that was really one of the big focuses of the team that was at COP27 for UCS. I was not there myself. The creation of a loss and damage facility was one of the most important outcomes of COP27, and will increasingly be working to ensure that non-economic losses to culture and heritage are a robust part of the ongoing discussions, and we look forward to partnering with many of you on doing that. And just before I finish, I wanted to highlight 3 other key priorities that we see for climate and heritage work post COP27. The first of those is to push forward the recommendations from last year's IPCC, ICOMOS, UNESCO white paper on climate science, culture and heritage, especially around increasing the body of published research on climate and heritage issues, but also giving greater weight to indigenous and traditional knowledge. And central to this is platforming the voices and experiences of indigenous people and traditional communities, so they don't come through scientists or people like me, but the platform is for people themselves. And today's meeting is an example of that. And then increase the role of cultural heritage and impacted communities in the Global South in litigation aimed at holding fossil fuel companies accountable for the harms they've caused. That's something UCS is very involved in. And then finally, highlighting the vital role of cultural heritage in successful climate resilience, including, for example, lessons that you all know about that can be learned from traditional water management, agriculture, building practices, etc. And I think that's another area that is crucial for coalitions like this to take forward. I think I'll leave it there. Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm excited about the rest of the program.
Thank you very much, Adam, for joining us today, and for the Union of Concerned Scientists for the support they provided to the 5 African heritage leaders that went to COP27. Next with us is Simon Musasizi. Mr. Simon Musasizi is the Heritage Trust Program Manager with the Cross-Cultural Foundation of Uganda, CCFU, a non-governmental organization focused on mainstreaming culture in development. Prior to joining CCFU, Simon was a journalist with the Observer newspaper for about a decade. This is where his passion for heritage, tourism, conservation, art, and culture issues was nurtured and honed. Simon, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sharma. Yes, as introduced, I work with the Cross-Cultural Foundation of Uganda. It's a non-government organization. This is for the interest of those who are hearing about it for the first time. So we have 3 main program areas. We work on cultural rights, where we work to advocate for the rights of indigenous minorities. But we also have an element of managing cultural diversity, because Uganda is a culturally diverse country. And then the other program area is on heritage promotion and safeguarding. But in the interest of time, I won't speak in detail about all our program areas. I'll go straight to the issue of climate change, because Uganda is one of those most vulnerable countries due to the effects of climate change. It's actually ranked 14th among the most vulnerable, and the 48th actually among the least ready to deal with the impact of climate change. So through our program areas, we've made a number of interventions. For instance, we've been working in the Rwenzori, looking at the impact of the receding snow of the Rwenzori Mountains. It's a World Heritage Site, and how it's impacting the community around the Rwenzori and northern Uganda. So working with the 3 ethnic groups, there were Konzo, Arul, and Acholi, it was evident that actually climate change has a significant impact on cultural heritage sites and their intangible aspects. So our message at the COP was that policymakers should be able to acknowledge that actually intangible cultural heritage is directly being affected by climate change, but also to acknowledge the fact that it's also a source of resilience and recovery in mitigating many of the negative effects of emergency in case of, for example, rebuilding social cohesion, fostering reconciliation, and facilitating recovery of communities that are confronted with such emergencies. So we were like, they should be able to integrate climate issues of cultural heritage in climate mitigation measures. So at the conference, it was a very as other speakers have noted, very enriching experience for us, especially for me, in terms of understanding the negotiations, how they happen, but also for the communities that we were able to share with knowledge, knowing what they're doing, for example, the other Africans countries, but also other indigenous communities like the people from Amazon that we were able to interact with. And it was also a good networking experience for us. So since the return from this conference, I've been able to participate in the International National Trust Organization Reflection Meeting that has informed some of the action points of the ongoing series of webinars. I don't know if some of you have followed them on climate change and heritage. But my organization has also been nominated to the post of the co-chair of the Climate Heritage Network. We are excited about this. We have also embarked on our new project, which is entitled Withstanding Change, Heritage Amongst Climate Uncertainty. So we shall be able to restore one historic property that is affected by climate change. And of course, I've been in a number of interviews with media houses that are interested to hear about our perspective from the COP27. My call for today is that if we are able to get this kind of support to have more African voices attend subsequent COPs, I think it will be very important because they bring an insight in some of the subjects that are usually not present at the conference. So it will be a good opportunity if we can be able to support as many Africans to be able to attend these conferences, but also other indigenous communities. So thank you so much to all our partners that made it possible for us to attend the COP27, but more especially to Dr. Salma and Dr. Andrew for working tirelessly to make it possible for us to be able to attend. I know that up to the last minute, we were not sure if we were going to be able to attend, and many people are able to organize, prepare for this conference, but some of us, it was a last-minute organization. But we thank you so much that we are able to make it possible for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Simon. And I just want to say that I want to thank all the heritage practitioners that actually took 1 week from their life, from their work to attend the COP, because it's not as easy to be able to take this time off to go to such conferences. So they've also made lots of effort and to be able to be part of it. So thank you, Simon, and all the others for making it possible. I would like to invite Dr. Haruna Audu Omar, who joined the COP online. Dr. Haruna Audu Omar is university lecturer in the Federal University of Kashmir. He obtained degrees in geography and in climatology and a PhD in climatology. And he's a specialist on Sukur cultural landscapes. So would you like to share with us your key messages from COP27, but also your post-COP27 experience and opportunities? The floor is yours, Dr. Haruna.
Oh, thank you very much, Salma. In fact, speaking online is a very nice experience I had for the COP. In fact, Sukur cultural heritage is an area that is suffering from a double blow. We have issue of desertification, and also on the other side, from time to time, issue of flooding. That is why I said a double blow. Like the message we passed during the COP was for policymakers, thanks to the vulnerability assessment index that was carried out at Sukur, where all people were involved, and that was why it was a success. The locals were involved, the academia were involved, all sectors were brought together, and that was why we were able to get the message from the locals, which after the COP, I have been in touch with them, because last year we have a devastating flood that occur in the environment. I share some of the pictures and video on the platform, and also shared with Salma of the devastating effect of flooding, which was caused by climate change. Also, the most problem that we are facing in most African countries, not only African countries, I came to realize that even in Pakistan, there is no database on cultural effect of climate change on world cultural heritage sites. Most of the data are about the humans, the community, and what have you. And thanks to ICOMOS International Scientific Committee, which after the COP, I was involved. Yeah, that's the video, some of the video, devastating effects of the climate change on Sukkur. You see how it has devastated the area and caused a lot of havoc to the community. So also, thanks to ICOMOS International Scientific Committee, which I was drafted into a committee with ICOMOS Nigeria to get data on heritage sites, which was not available. Most of the data was on either humans, effect on humans, effect on landscape, not particularly on the cultural heritage sites. So now there is a workshop that is being planned by ICOMOS International Scientific Committee together with Pakistan, where Nigerians and Pakistan that are having similar condition of lack of data on cultural heritage sites, where the cultural managers will be trained on how to mitigate when such things happen. How are they going to mitigate against such effect of climate change? And they will be trained on data collection on this issue of climate change on world cultural heritage, so that at least when we speak with authority, that there is data, we know the cultural sites that are being affected. So these are the aftermath of the COP27 that I had in my area. We had 2 meetings, and very soon we'll also have another meeting, and we have been given a box where we'll drop all the messages concerning the effect of climate change in Nigeria, so that at last, when there is a training, our heritage workers will benefit from it on how to collect the data, on how to mitigate. Also, one interesting thing that I saw, there is a picture sent to me from Sukkur, just of recent, which I also shared with Salma, on adaptation. You know, adaptation in that particular environment have been long as old as the community, because the pathway that lead to the top Sukkur, there is a paveway they made. And that paveway helped them in curtailing the pressure on the soil. They use stones along the way to the top Sukkur. So recently, there is an effect due to the issue of this climate change and pressure on the land. Some of the paveway have started getting damaged. And thanks to the community, that's the video of the paveway that people of Suku had. That's the way you follow to the top. And what you are seeing now is the damage aspect of the paveway. And what the community normally do is, from time to time, they follow through their communal effort in the community. When there is such damage, they come over to repair such damage. That shows that they are getting aware that once they live without using that adaptive method, there's going to be a damage, there's going to be a serious gully in that environment. So the pathway have helped in curtailing the Goli in such environment. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Haruna. Before moving to our two final speakers, Ibrahim Chan and Daniel Ishaya, I would like to share with you one message that Mercy Mbogela, who is the site managers of the ruins of Kilwa Kisiwani and the ruins of Songomnara World Heritage Sites, shared during her stay at COP. Cultural and natural heritage sites, including World Heritage properties, can serve as a refuge, strengthening resilience for communities during and after climate-related emergencies, and can also act as assets for recovery in the wake of intercommunal conflicts linked to climate change. Our governments need to ensure the inclusion of culture in decision-making processes related to climate change, but also to incorporate climate change agenda in both cultural and natural heritage policy, as well as to increase fund for adaptation measures for the agenda of climate changes in heritage sites. From my perspective as a researcher, but also working with heritage professionals, I felt that COP27, in all the discussion and event that I participated in, they were always an element of culture, of values that was sometimes missing. For example, when talking about agriculture, we forget about the cultural shift that we need to actually change completely the way we consume food. And it was really interesting to see that in every event I went to, there were always an aspect of culture, similarly to what Dr. Ishan Lawson said, but that this element of culture was not clearly stated and clearly understood, which for me meant that the root cause of that is hindering change and adaptation is mostly cultural understanding, but also cultural practices. And this is where I feel that culture can really, like, giving importance in culture when talking about climate change and when talking about climate change adaptation, including communities' perception, communities' understanding of what's the impacts of climate change on their assets, but also on their values. And this is a bridge between culture, heritage, and arts, and other sectors that are dealing with climate change issues. And I feel that there's really a need to create more connections between all these sectors. My message during COP was that knowledge infrastructure building and trainings for heritage managers, including stakeholder mapping and involvement of scientifics, local communities, and authorities concerning integrated vulnerability assessments, permits the sensitization of heritage managers and professionals to the importance of local values and show the complexity of assessing the climate change vulnerability of values in comparison to the vulnerability of assets. I would like to give the floor now to Daniel Ishawa.
Okay.
Share,
good afternoon.
Thank you, Daniel.
Hello. Yep.
Yes, please share with us your experience at COP and also the learnings and what's happened after COP27 for you. Thank you. Just to present, Daniel Ishawa works with the National Commission for Museums and Monuments in Nigeria. He is the site manager of Rabi Port, Dikwa, a heritage site faced with mixed climate change and Boko Haram insurgency. He is one of the 6 African heritage professionals that's undergone CVI-Africa. The floor is yours, Daniel.
Thank you very much, Salma. And, good afternoon, everyone. Just as you said, I'm Daniel Ishawa from Nigeria. I really need to thank the CHN, the UCS, INTO, and other founders that have granted our access to Sharm el-Sheikh, the COP27. just I told Salma the other time, before CVI, I was just a local champion here, just managing and documenting sites. And the CVI have exposed a lot of things. But the greater is COP27. I was able to meet with a lot of heritage professionals, and I was able to see for myself in reality what culture is all about. And we really give gratitude to those people that have helped us to take the African voices to the COP27. Thank you very much. And after the COP27, actually the COP27 has granted me a lot of opportunity and experience, and give me a lot of courage to participate in so many other things. And just as I've said, when I was there, I was not able to socialize a lot, unlike my colleagues. But gradually I started picking up, and then I even have some friends over there. So after the COP27, and when I came back here, I was able to contact Ms. Catherine Leonard, the Secretary General of INTO, concerning the rabies spot, rabies spot, the problem of rabies spot, which was just as Salma said, it's a mixed climatic and Boko Haram insurgents problem, where the fort has been neglected due to lack of access. But after the military have regained control over the site has been badly affected by the climate change. Most climatic stressors have acted upon the site, and because it was an earthen structure, a lot of the building has been defaced largely. And we are now working on the salvage, to salvage the site. And I'm now working with the National Commission for Museums and Monuments and other relevant stakeholders to see the way we can salvage the site. And after the COP27, when I come back, my Director General contacted me directly that I should work on a specific site that he has mentioned, that he wants to enlist them into the National Heritage List. Before then, I was working on 3 sites, and I just want to tell you that they have been succeeded. They have been successfully declared as national monuments among the 111 sites that have just recently declared last week in Nigeria, and 3 are my efforts, and now 1 is also still in the pipeline. And I really need your support on that. And after that, I was able to discuss with my colleague, Mr. Simon Mosasizi of the director of Ugandan Cross-Cultural Foundation, where we discussed about Heritage Club. So when I come back here, I say, okay, let me just try this to see if I can form a heritage club here. So there's a school which was mainly for the out-of-school children. So it was done in the evening because there was no child-friendly space. So I started going there with a few kids, meeting a few kids. We started with 7 students. Now we are having about 25 students. We have formed a heritage club. The registration is still on the pipeline with the CAC. And we are really working and then looking forward to see if we can get support or grant from other institutions, because these children are unique set of children. They are called CAGs. CAGs mean CAAGS, that is children affected with armed conflict, or children that have taken armed rifles and have fought in the, or have been forced to fight in these Boko Haram insurgents. So they have been segregated by the other children in the society. So we are working towards reintegration, towards rehabilitation, and towards learning. That is teaching them, because they have been out of school for a long time. So we are now trying to teach them afresh, though they are at the age of from 9 to 16, some of them, but most of them have never been to school. So we are trying to reintegrate them into society. And it's a very heavy tax upon us. But yeah, we are really trying. And I was able to do this National Commission for Museums and Monuments on the Climate Heritage Network list. And with Dr. Andrew Potts working on it. And I have been also contacted to work upon so many articles by so many people. And some people have contacted me to work on their forts. That is the climate change on forts or military garrison, which we are working on them. And this COP has exposed me to a lot of things where I now took it upon myself to write or produce a syllabus, because there was a huge demand from numerous staff of National Commission for Museums and Monuments, and from most of the workshops I have attended, where it has to do with CVI. They really wanted us to have a CVI syllabus for national heritage sites in Nigeria, to be applied, because CVI was strictly for World Heritage sites. But we are now simplifying it to work upon national monuments. And then I'm working together with Professor Scott from Australia and John Day. And then I have been feeding Dr. Will Megari upon the CVI syllabus for the national heritage. And we are now almost at the edge of stage of completion. So now my key was at the COP27 was a shout out to the lawmakers and the world leaders is on the inclusion of African cultural voices to COP27. However, there are more reasons for co-opting the indigenous local knowledge, which was embedded into intangible cultural heritage, into our national and international policies. However, one more reason for including the international local knowledge in climate vulnerability assessment on our intangible cultural heritages in many societies and cultures is the risks it faces nowadays of being extinct. And aside modernization, globalization, urbanization, urban and rural developments, the increasing rate of climate change due to droughts, floods, that causes forced migration, as well as damages to our heritage properties. All these join forces to put intangible cultural heritage at risk. Such expression of history, culture, and heritage is now increasingly in urgent need to protect, in urgent need of protection and preservation at different risks, as different risks converge to threaten and to alter not only the form, but also the manner of which this intangible cultural heritage exists. Thank you very much. These are my contributions.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you for sharing with us. I will invite our next speaker, Ibrahim Chan. Ibrahim Chan is a Beninese jurist specializing in cultural heritage. He is the director and co-founder of the Tata Somba Eco Museum, the first ecological museum in West Africa. He's also part of the steering committee of the Climate Heritage Network and serves as the Heritage Region representative within the Climate Heritage Network's Global Alliance for Buildings and Constructions. Ibrahim, the floor is yours.
Hello, thank you, Salma. I'm really happy to be here, and I really want to say that support us to attend the COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh. So I would like to say that yes, you know that I'm working on Kutamaku. Kutamaku is cultural and natural sites in Togo and both Togo and Benin, and has many cultural landscape. We have the same problem about climate change. So our museum and our volunteers trying to work with community and see how we can get some solution about how we can prepare the community to be ready to respond about all effects of climate change. So at COP27, we was very happy to share our experience, to share our work about how we can learn from our heritage, how we can learn from this side that I'm talking about, how we can learn from local community to have some solution about climate change. And this is focused on the traditional building that this community are building in this area. But today is very difficult to still continue to build this house because of climate change. Some materials are disappear. And then it's not easy for the people to have the materials to build new houses. And as there is no place where they can learn, there is no university, there is no school where they can learn how to build these houses. It's very difficult for us to still continue to keep, to preserve this knowledge. So we are trying to create traditional school, like informal education, to bring together whole people and youth people around the workshop, who bring them to build together and use houses, like and it's a place where the youth can learn how to build these houses. And for us to be ready to be resilient, it's very important to have knowledge, to have this traditional knowledge, to be ready to still continue to build these houses for the next generation. Because if these houses, the name is Takenta, if it disappear, this World Heritage Site also will disappear, because one of most important element of this heritage is these houses. So this is our work, and our key message at COP27 was that humanity chance to mitigate, adapt, and survive in the face of global warming is largely in the hand of indigenous African people. Approaches to solution to this planetary crisis must no longer allow themselves to be ignored. So this was our message. And I would like to say that because of COP27, our participation, we get more opportunity. Let's speak in November, speak to this important event, letter to the Earth, storytelling our response to the climate emergency. So I was speaker like Farhana Yamin, and also some of iconic people around the world. And also we get chance to meet Cédric Carl, who is from France, the director of Atelier 21. He's working about how we can use the past solution to have the solution for today. So he's working about energy. So I was able to plan a meeting at COP27, to plan a meeting with him in France, at Paris, and we make this meeting. And after the meeting, we start to work together on one project who will bring us to launch a climate mobile museum. And we want to share with this mobile museum how museum can contribute to have some solution about climate change. And then also we can bring this mobile museum in the school and talk about traditional solution and modern solution about climate change. And also in the future, we will participate, because in COP27, we launched our song about climate change, Solito to Solita. And we get an invitation to attend, my band and me, to attend the Chambala Festival. It will be at UK, and it's a sustainable music festival. It will take place in July 2023, and we will invite by Jack Mockton, who was at COP Culture COP. And in the end, of opportunity, I would like to say that I get also a contract proposal from Michel Tutois to work about how we can use music and storytelling to bring youth people in the fighting about climate change. So I would really like to say many thanks to all our partners who help us to do all this, to have all this success. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ibrahim. Please share the link to the song Solita for Solidarity in the chat so everyone can have a look at it. I would like to invite quickly Andrew to just talk to us a bit about what's our next step in relation to COP28, but also a new project that are working within the heritage and climate change sector. And to end this meeting, I will just put a video, some snippet of the video that we've made during COP27 with a videographer, Francis Anoum, who came from Benin to COP27. So this funding also allow us to bring young professionals in the art sector to COP27, and he supported us in recording our experience there. I would like to thank you very much for all your support, all the individuals and organizations that supported us. And we are continuing this work in supporting more heritage voices from Africa, but also from other countries, and voices that are not heard enough in the climate change discussion. Thank you. Andrew.
Selma, you really said it all, and just bravo again to all of our speakers. I think you can see the power of having these eyewitness accounts, these testimonials, these diverse voices in the room where climate policy is being made. 2023, COP28 is the year for the Asian COP. And I know we actually have colleagues on this call from around Asia, from our partners at Southeastern Asia Cultural Heritage Alliance and Siam Society, who will be helping us bring Asian cultural voices to Dubai for COP28. But we still want to also leverage the expertise and the passion from African colleagues. And the more we can build this engagement, as Ishinlosen said, the better and more effective climate policy will be. And so thank you for your interest, and please consider supporting us going into the end of this year as we bring African and Asian cultural voices to COP28.
From World Heritage Sites in Tanzania, Uganda, Benin, and Nigeria to share their stories, their challenges around the world, giving a crucial
and how it relates to climate, gender, and culture.
Allow me to be here and to be part of the Climate Heritage Network. So I've been collaborating with this network since COP26, but it's really exciting to see how all these activities around cultural heritage are taking place here in the core of.
Also the Destination Manager of the Climate Vulnerability Index Africa. I'm here at COP27 to support African heritage voices in sharing their stories, their challenges, and their approach.
At the Climate Heritage Network, and I'm really delighted to be hosting this event today.
Present African voice for the COP27, as my site is among of the site in Tanzania or Africa, of which is impacted with the climate change. So like a construction
is construction of gabion walls, construction of gabion walls like
what you see here, so as to protect from wave action, but also plantation of mangrove trees. As you see here, this is how we plant mangrove seeds. Then after 1 month, we have tried to plant this. Can serve as a refuge, strengthening resilience for communities during and after climate-related emergencies, and can also act as an asset for recovery in the wake of intercommunal conflict linked to climate change. Our government needs to ensure the inclusion of culture in
site to try and understand the impact of climate change on our heritage resources. So we've been trying to document our cultural heritage resources that are under threat because of the impact of climate change. It is
the third largest town in the 60s in Uganda. It was swept completely. It was swept, schools, villages. So this is what is happening. But a lot of time when this happens, a lot of attention is on how many people have lost their lives, how many property have been lost. But we don't pay attention to the culture, people's culture that is being affected. So ethnic groups, but we work with shanty towns developing.
I based for Depot, and I have worked in several sites. Especially I documented about 16 sites for enlistment into Nigeria's national heritage list. And I have worked in on school cultural landscape with school community, and
it's a scientific approach of applying a tool of scientific approach on applying climate change vulnerability assessment on heritage sites. Of history, culture, heritage is now increasingly an urgent need for protection and preservation.
Sites, World Heritage Site in Benin, both Benin and Togo, is very affected, and people don't have any more resources like material to build houses. Who is Takienta? Takienta is main of principal site from Benin and Togo. Some parts of climate change, there is no any more materials to have a new building of this traditional now.
It means we need to have a balanced.
We were able to, when you talk about climate, it has many elements. So during the workshop, which comprises
is African COP. We can't do it without African people. We would like to be a lot of like this, but we don't have resources. We already give our resources to our community to work, but we don't have possibility to show it, to share it, to bring it around the world. And thanks to Salma, she make a...
At some point in the history of
some water. It's our power here.
Thank you, everyone who stayed until the end. Thank you so much for being with us today, and I hope we can keep in touch in the next year and sharing more about what heritage practitioners around the world with whom we don't hear the voice in our TVs, in the media. We can share more of their voices with the Climate Heritage Network, with ICOMOS, with all our partners. Thank you for staying with us, and all the videos are available on the newly launched Climate Heritage Network YouTube channel, so I welcome you to go and explore them. Bye everyone, have a lovely day. Thank you very much for joining. Bye.